You're an evil man. Just evil.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
Good. Okay. Sounds good.
Me doesn't last forever. Oh, sorry.
All right, this is Dave. It's way too quiet out there.
I didn't think it worked.
I have 6:59 and counting, so at 7 we'll start. So Dale, I hope you have the flag ready again.
I got her. I'll fly her right side up.
I think all of our computers are now synchronized to a universal clock. So they probably all just changed to 7 o'clock at the same time. So it is 7 o'clock. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda tonight is our pledge. So if we can, everybody please stand up and face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States
of America and to the republic
Republic,
For
which
which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty,
and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. Allison, will you please start with roll call?
Sure. Dave Brutlog,
Here.
Joe Boyd,
Here.
Kathy Brooks,
Here.
Jim Campbell,
Here.
Lynn Norris,
Here.
Phil Morris,
Here.
Mark Cotty.
here.
All right, thank you. Sarah, can you tell if there's anybody watching? I'm going to announce anyway. If there is anybody watching and you have a question or you want to make a comment during the citizens hearing, start sending your messages to Sarah Hill and she will relay those to the board at the time we get to the citizens hearing. So you will probably have about 5 to 10 minutes to get those to Sarah. So I suggest you start now. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our consent items. We look at the minutes from the last meeting and we look at all the financial statements and bills and we vote for the payment of bills. I don't know if everybody noticed it. Sarah did send out a few additions to the bills today. They were all routine additions, so there won't be any problems with any of those. Does anybody have any corrections or questions on any of the minutes or the financial statements?
There was one charge of 20. It wasn't one of the bills, so I don't know if this is the right spot to ask. But there was a charge on page 10 in the general fund under miscellaneous expenses of 2,590. I just wondered what that was for October.
I can look that up and tell you here in just a second. Hang on.
You could just send it to me later, I guess, too. I mean,
Sure.
it's fine. I was just curious what it was.
If you're going to have it within a minute, Sarah, we'll hang on.
Just a second here.
I tried to find it in the other sheets and I could never find it. So I didn't know if it was detailed somewhere else or not.
That could be the cumulative amount for that, but give me just a minute here to pull up my email and my right system.
It was on the November revenue and expense report PDF,
Okay.
page 10.
You said page 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
general fund, street miscellaneous expense, 2590.
Okay, hang on just a second here.
I only noticed it because we're 2,590% over budget on that item.
Right, so let me. Find the right thing here.
Okay, I'm not gonna put any pressure on anybody. Why don't we go ahead and see if there's any other questions? And if Sarah has an answer before we move on, great. If not, we'll get one.
Yeah, I'll
So,
have to do that later because the computer I'm streaming from is the one that has all of my system on it to look it up.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll do that right as soon as we're done with the meeting.
okay, so we have a question on one of the bills and we will get it resolved. Maybe not before we vote, but we can vote with knowing that it will be explained at a later point in time. Were there any other questions on the minutes or the payment of bills?
No.
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception that the one item will be explained either later tonight or at a later point in time.
Emotion, Joe.
I'll second. Phil.
Okay, so we have a motion from Joe and a second from Phil. Is there any additional discussion? If not, Allison, roll call.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris. Lynn Norris,
Yes. Did you,
Phil.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Phil Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes.
Okay, and if you come up with that yet tonight, Sarah, you can explain it later.
I
If-
actually have the answer now.
Okay,
Removal of the tree that we split with the residents and ourselves. It was put into miscellaneous because they will be repaying some of that and we'll be paying some of that. It was an unexpected expense this year. That was the tree in the alley.
That tree in the alley?
Yep.
okay. Good catch, Joe. Good question. I encourage all the board members to look for things like that and ask questions. All right. Our next item on the agenda is the village president report. I want to start with the revenue review. Revenues are still going real strong for Hudson. I've talked to some of the mayors in some of the other towns, and we're probably in about as good a shape as any of the other towns in McLean County on a revenue basis. I don't know if you looked and saw the utility tax was down. And the reason for that is natural gas prices have gone down. And so our gas person that attends the mayor's meetings brought that up and explained that's why utility tax revenue is down. On the COVID-19 status, I think we all know that Governor Pritzker has moved our region into phase 1, where there are certain additional restrictions on besides mask wearing. The COVID counts for zip code 61748 went from 39 a month ago to 52. So we increased by 13. That's close to 1 every other day. So there is still COVID in the area in zip code 61748. Okay, on the sewer grant application, that's been to, Sarah's put that all together and has sent it into Farnsworth. And I think Farnsworth got the revised copy and has had it for close to a week, and we're waiting on word from Farnsworth now to submit it. And once they, give us the blessing on it. So it's at Farnsworth. We think it's ready to go. And we're just waiting for their okay to get it sent in. I think the deadline was the end of November for that. So that should be sent in real soon. Just a reminder, if you haven't completed your sexual harassment training, be sure to complete that. Sarah, do you remember the due date for that?
Yeah, it's just the end of the year.
End of the year. Okay. So some of the procrastinators like me still have a month to get this done, right?
Yes.
Okay. Garbage contracts, I'm gonna meet with Lynn, and I've got to have the orientation with her and fill her in on the garbage contract. Sarah will be there, and we'll do the orientation for new trustees and talk about it. I have been contacted by Republic. They are very interested in bidding when we get that far. And the state outlines what we have to go through for bidding. So I'm sure we'll follow those and get the bids published and everything. So hopefully next month we'll start discussions on that. Republic wanted to attend the meeting, and I suggested they just pin that until we actually have a meeting in person. I think the communication is a little better in person. So they agreed they would gladly wait. I have a topic here. The next one is the cost estimates for the elimination of burning of leaves. Joe, I want to thank you, and I think you worked with Mark and Denny on that. Is that correct?
Yeah. We all got different info.
Okay, so I think the board got a copy of that, and I want to thank Denny and Mark for helping with that. The cost for a used vacuum, which would be the initial major cost, was $27,000. And I don't know if that was, maybe Denny or Joe knows, that was one that we would anticipate would be in good shape, or it's liable to last 3 years and then need major repairs. Do we have any idea on the condition of that price would give us?
Denny got that info. I can let him speak to it. He got prices for a new one too. I should have included that, but didn't think to.
Yeah, that was be one that's in fairly good shape.
Okay. So it probably lasts us at least a few years. And then the next estimate you have to go with that is that it would be 2 people for a month or about a month to pick up the leaves every year. We estimate that labor cost at $6,000. And these are costs for eliminating burning of leaves. If we talk about burning or eliminating burning of branches and things that people burn now besides leaves, we could be looking at, I believe it's estimated here, 240 man hours, at least another $3,600 to cover the cost of that. So if we want to eliminate burning, it would cost $27,000 for a leaf vacuum thing. It would probably cost $6,000 for labor for that, and to eliminate the rest of our burning, at least $3,600 or more a year.
Well, each of those items were just for leaves, really. I mean, I didn't really think to do other stuff other than leaves, because I don't know what other stuff people burn. I mean, if you're just talking about sticks and stuff, yeah, I don't know what that cost would be. But these were different options basically to just get the leaves, which I think is what mostly causes the smoke, but maybe the other stuff does too.
Yeah, the leaves are the major thing. This is the time of the year, and it's happened a couple of times already where you can be a mile or 2 out of town, and you see a lot of white smoke coming up. And so I'm sure other board members have been asked, have we looked at eliminating burning of leaves. And apparently it was looked at a number of years ago. Mark, you were involved with that. Normal didn't have the capacity to do the pickup for us. And we haven't found other contractors that do that type of service. So it's going to be a major cost besides the initial equipment cost, probably somewhere between $3,000 and $9,000 in labor costs. There are some other costs too for putting some kind of box or whatever on the dump truck to haul the leaves, and we did not price that either. But now when people ask me, what would it cost to not burn leaves, we have some prices to refer to. So, Joe, can we put this in some kind of format that we can just post it on the village website? Just cost estimates for burning.
Yeah, I can make a PDF of it or something if you want.
If you would do that, that'd be good.
Okay.
You can put it out there and people can look at it if they want to.
I'll remove the names and stuff that I actually have on it and make it anonymous and stuff too.
Okay. That'll work. So, all right. And I do want to again thank you guys for doing this work. I've always wondered, what it would take to do that. I know Normal does it, and it's one of the things we get asked about every so often, especially with families where somebody has asthma. So, okay, the next item on the agenda, if anybody has any questions for Joe on that, please feel free to ask questions at any time.
Joe, I just wanted to add, I know Normal Bloomington, when they pick it up, they use the same vehicles that they plow snow with. So once snow starts falling, the leaves stop. And if we have an issue picking up leaves and before the snow starts, it's stuck there all year, all winter. So I just something to consider.
Thanks, Dale. Next item on the agenda is the discussion on the quill. We talked about it last month, and we discussed it. It wasn't on the agenda to do a vote, but I think there was opinions that it would probably be all right to go ahead and get the quill for the village residents if the cost was a lot less than the $4,000 plus that we were paying before. We have an opportunity to share the cost with the township and with the grant money from Kuchin Foundation, to where our cost would be $1,600 a year. So I want to open that back up for discussion and get opinions. And if people are in agreement after discussion, see if anybody's interested in making a motion to approve that.
I think it's a reasonable compromise.
I have a quick question, Dave. Where would that come out of in the budget, just so I know if it is approved, where we're taking it from?
I know we put money in it, but where did it come out of last year?
It had its own line item that we took out.
Okay. If we will have to find the money, but
Okay.
Does it make sense to put it back under that line item? Find money for it?
Yeah, if we find the money for it, I can transfer it to that line item. That's fine. I just want to make sure where you want me to take it from. So we'll figure that out then.
Okay. We have not looked into that part of it, but we need to decide whether or not we're going to do it first. Does any of the other trustees have thoughts on it?
I think it's as I agree with Kathy, it's good compromise. It'll be affordable, and it'll give us that, again, that opportunity, share information with the citizens, and also there's also that historical record of it, so that people can look back and find things when they want to do historical research. So, I mean, I always enjoy getting that, and I'd read it, and it'll be ours, that section, so that we can pass along information, especially with people who don't have the technology or don't know how to use the technology to go to the website and do things online. So
I agree. Any other trustees want to make a comment? If not, is anyone willing to make a motion that we work with Sarah to find $1,600 to pay for the quill for the next year?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Allison, did you get who made the motion? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm good.
so we have a motion and a second to pay for the quill for the next year at a cost of $1,600. Is there any additional discussion? Not, Allison, please take roll.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes,
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. And I think it's a real good service that we do this for the community, so. Okay, next up is the annual tax appropriation. I tried to send out a little note to the trustees just to explain what it is for our newer trustees. So historically, Hudson and I think a lot of other communities raise it every year a small amount. And as a homeowner, there are years you might see your dollar amount increase, or years you will see your dollar amount decrease, depending on how much the assessed evaluation changes in the town. So anybody have any questions on the tax ordinance, tax appropriation?
Dave, I just had one, since I wasn't on the board last year. What percent, is there a percent increase that the tax levy went up?
That is at 4.9.
Okay, good.
Was last year. If you go
All
to,
right.
you have to do a bunch of other things to go with that. They typically do the 4.9.
Got it. Okay.
What was the garbage collection piece of it? What is that used for?
I asked that on the county before. That has always been, that's how the county has it laid out. So it's just how it is done in our levy ordinance, is how they explained it to me in the past.
Okay, so it's just general money we get for the general. Does all the money go into the general fund?
It does go into the general fund, yeah.
Okay.
McGrath, please.
Yeah, I was going to jump in. So I'm not familiar with the specific nuances of how you pay for your garbage service. So does the village write a check for the garbage service, or is it just resident bill?
We do not. And I've asked that of the county before, and she said that's just how it's set up, so it needs to stay that way. So I'm not really sure.
Well, and that's an
we should change or
entire,
not. It's just what how they explained it to me in the past.
yeah, and the way they set it up is based on your request. And technically, if you levy for the garbage collection fund, that money can only be spent for garbage collection purposes. So if the village isn't writing a check to area for garbage, many communities who have a levy for garbage collection have a blended billing component where the municipality pays X dollars, and then there's some nominal charge in addition that's residents pay. And that's more traditionally where you'd see the garbage collection levy. I would suggest, and you have time to do this, and I'd be glad to help with this. I haven't drilled into your levy just because I hadn't, been asked to, and it's something you guys have handled well in the past yourself. But I'd be glad to take a look. It won't take me a lot of time, and I would suggest we should move those funds somewhere else.
That would be great.
You're not in a tax cap county, so you have a 5% limit on how much you can increase your levy request over last year's extension without doing a hearing. So that sets a total dollar cap, but we can salt that out over, your general fund, your social, you can have Social Security, your unemployment insurance, your liability insurance, your audit, crossing guards. There's all sorts of different ways we can salt that out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And since the questions come up, I appreciate the question coming up, because I think, it's something we should fix. So if you don't mind tabling it for a month, you'd still have plenty of time to adopt and get it filed on a timely basis. But I think we can get something cleaned up here for the village.
All right, Sarah, will you work with Pat on that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, then we'll pin the levy until you two have a chance to look at that. Sarah, that'll also give you a chance to find out that other question I had.
Yep, I will look into that as well.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, I had one other question about tax levy, and maybe Pat can answer the question. We've never levied, as you can see, Pat, we levy for Social Security, but we've never levied for the IMRF that we participate in. And I just asked your opinion on that. We never have, but do you think that we should levy for the IMRF?
That is an advantageous place to levy money because that's an uncapped fund, which means you're not subject to fund maximum rates. In practice, most you can levy is based on what your expense is plus being able to maintain a reasonable reserve. So when I look at a tax levy with fresh eyes, first priority is maximizing use of available kind of unrestricted or uncapped funds. So I think that's a worthwhile suggestion and something we can definitely take a look at as we kind of look at where your dollars should be. I do know, and I know this, in fact, from before I represented the village when I did an assessment for another community. I know to the village's credit, you've historically had pretty low municipal village component property tax rates for a number of years, one of the lower ones in McLean County and even in surrounding counties. Part of the answer to your question, Mark, is the policy part of where do you want the levy to be. But beyond that question, which is more a board question from an internal standpoint of how we allocate those dollars, definitely something we'll look at and I think is a good suggestion.
Okay, and so the board was aware of it too. I did some research on the McLean County website and pulled tax rates for 5 of the smaller towns in McLean County. And just to compare our tax rate to the other towns that are closest to our size and assessed evaluations. And I will share that with you. I'll put it in a better format in a spreadsheet so that everybody has a chance to look at that. Pat, I will just send you a copy of that too, just so you know what I'm sending out. But it's just the information is all out there on the McLean County website, but it's not easy to compare us to Lexington or Downs without doing a lot of copy and pasting and that type of thing. So I will share that with the board. It also shows a couple of the towns have got park districts, which are totally separate taxing body than what the villages are. I think there were 2, Lexington and possibly either Leroy or Downs, but I'll send that out to everybody. So we'll pin that until next month. It's not due until December, so we will get that taken care of next month. I don't know if any of you went up to the Hudson United Methodist Church for Halloween and saw the activities going on there, but I want to thank the Halloween committee and Dale and Denny from the village side for participating in that. Dale or Denny, did you ever hear a count of how many kids went through there?
Just under 250.
So and about 250 kids go through. It's a great turnout for the village. The people on the committee did a fantastic job. And when I was up there, everybody had masks on. People were social distancing. So it did follow all the state IDPH guidelines. And I think it was a well-planned event. And I hope that group looks at it for future years too. So thanks to the group that put on Halloween for Hudson. A few things that I don't have on the agenda, just information. Allison sent out a note. There are election packets available up at the town hall. I invite all of you trustees to pick up a packet, and except for Kathy. Kathy's not up this time. The rest of you are up. There will be 2 2-year terms and 3 4-year terms for the trustees. And for mayor, it'll be a 4-year term. I am going to run for mayor this year or at our next election. And I hope all the trustees that are there now will consider getting a packet and running for board again. I think we've got an excellent board right now. And I think we can do a lot of good things for the village. So please think about running for a position. Phil, do you plan to cover the sidewalk discussions in your portion?
I can briefly go over it, Dave. We haven't really got a lot of information from the county, but I can discuss it a little bit.
Will you cover it then in streets?
Yes.
Thank you. And Dale, will you give us a status on the updates to the meeting room when we get that far to your report?
Oh, yes, I for sure will.
Thank you. All right, and question for the staff and for board. Dollar General is going great guns out there. And I don't know when they'll be open. I haven't heard anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if they'd be open before the end of the year. Denny, have you talked to anybody out there?
Not that they've given me a specific target date, but it is progressing very well.
I talked to him about water today and he told me December 15th.
Okay, so if any of the staff or trustees have an idea on how we welcome Dollar General to Hudson, please let me know. So I'm not sure how what the best thing to do to welcome them is, but we definitely want to make them feel at home when they open. So if you got ideas, be sure to let me know. Okay, also an information thing, Unit 5 sent out a contract for the garage that we've been using up by the grade school ball field. And I will get that to Lynn for discussion at next month's meeting. All right, that is the end of my report. There was one other thing. I don't know how I missed it, but I want to let everybody know. Sarah had all the CURE money applications submitted. Those all went in, and I think they go to a company called Crow. They will review them, and hopefully, since it's payroll, it should be a pretty quick review. She is also accumulating all the bills for what we're updating at the Waterhouse, and we'll have those ready to go for whatever money is left over in round 2. There are some towns, even in McLean County, that have not registered to get any money back. And so it appears to me there's going to be some money left for phase 2. I have no idea how much, but it is what it is. Next on the agenda, the Water and Public Property Superintendent, Jeff Waller.
Water's good. Everything's up to date. All the testing's done. In the parks, I'm mowing this week yet. I've mowed the 2 Front Street and the ballpark today. Plan on mowing the other ones tomorrow and Friday for the last time before winter. And then next week, we're going to go into snowplow mode and get the spreader on and the plows back in the big shed and kind of changing gears for that. I did receive a call today about a rooster crowing at 4:30 in the morning. Denny's been out today. So I encourage those people to participate in the meeting tonight and ask a question about what's being done to that, with that, because I'm kind of out of the loop on that. That's more of an ordinance question. So I think you'll probably get some questions about the animals running at large in the village later on in this segment. But other than that, all's good.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Next, street and zoning, Denny.
Yeah, Dollar General, we just talked about, it's going well. No hiccups there. We just had in October, as a reminder, our last limb pickup. So unless there's an ice storm, no more curbside limb pickup until April. Please use the bunker at the township for leaf drop off. And as I usually mention, be sure to thank someone on the township staff or board for allowing us to use that. It's been used quite frequently already this year. And as Jeff said, we'll be getting the snow stuff ready in the next week or so, unfortunately.
It just doesn't seem right. 70 degrees out and you're talking about getting snow stuff ready.
Very depressing.
Okay, thank you, Denny. Does anybody have questions for Jeff or Denny? If not, we'll go to the village marshal, Dale Sparks.
Okay, police department's going along well. No real major issues. We have a couple investigations going on. Some of them ordinance violation and some of them are criminal juvenile stuff, but nothing that's out of the norm. So again, everything is going smooth as far as the police department goes. On the update of the building for our social spacing meeting or the COVID program, today the furnace was set. I guess the furnace was set yesterday, but it was powered up and running today. We've got a little ductwork yet to do, put in. It'll come in Friday if all the parts make it in. Electricians will be in on Friday, do some wiring for us. Next Friday, no, it's next Tuesday, the door at the end of the hallway will go in. That'll be done at the end of the day on Tuesday. I'm still waiting to hear back from Ken on the sewer or when their start time, but that's been approved, I'm told. So you just got to do some diagrams and get it back to the county. The lift has been put in for the chairs to be lifted to the top when we're not having a meeting. It's functioning well. In addition to that, we've met with the sound and light guy. We've got a final price on that. Everybody will have a mic on their table with the option to mute it when it's not being used. Price went up a little bit with the mics, a little bit change in the program, but it's going to go well. Today, the tables and chairs were ordered. They should be in within a week or so. So we're making some pretty good progress. As far as the window at the bank, I'm still waiting for a price, or not so much a price, but a time schedule from Childers. I haven't been able to get with them or make contact with them, but we will, and we'll get that in.
Sounds like a lot of things are moving well.
Yeah, they'll move along pretty quick once they get started.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Dale? Next report is Civil Defense Director. And I know Jeff normally has meetings the same night as us, so he usually can't attend. I think the siren sounded at 10 yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. So Kathy, siren sound down by you too?
I remember hearing it. I assumed it was down here.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is our citizens hearing. Sarah, have you received any emails or questions from anybody? Go ahead, Sarah, with the first one.
Okay, I've got multiple here. It looks like, let's see, sorry, let me get my screen correct. We've got one from Christy Joe. She says, I would like to ask about people keeping farm animals in their backyard on Southeast Street. There's a family with pigs and roosters and goats. It is not fun being woke up at 4 a.m. by this rooster. Also, they're making the whole block smell awful. Is there a rule against this?
Yes.
You want me to speak to that, Dave?
Yes.
Yes, there's a rule against it. In very general terms, with almost anything ordinance violation related, or in fact, even beyond that criminal law related, there's a certain due process that people are entitled to. And even in the case of violations which seem very apparent, we still have to go through the right procedural steps in order to enforce ordinances. And it's generally my policy to refrain from discussing super specific details regarding specific ordinance violation complaints. But I can tell you that, the village has received complaints and has taken the appropriate steps to initiate the legal process, which involves getting court dates and having a case set for court. And the village is doing everything within its power to bring compliance with the provisions of local ordinance, subject to limitations of state law and due process. And we're doing all we can.
Are there any court dates set yet, Pat, or how close are we to having them set?
Yeah, we have a court date later this month.
Okay.
I can tell you the day in a minute. In just a
If
second.
I might add, Dave, I tried to make contact with the family today, no contact, but I did reach out to them and there was no return call. It went to a dead phone.
I think our court date's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Pat, on the ordinance violation, do they receive multiple ordinance violations? Do they receive a violation every day that they're non-compliant? Like a no parking spot? If you were to give a ticket for a no parking spot, I would expect that you give a ticket the next day and the next day and the next day until the car is moved. This is not like that?
Well, they still have the same court date. And in this case, there have been multiple ordinance violation citations written. This particular ordinance has a couple amendments that I've recommended and I think we'll bring forward at a subsequent meeting. One of those amendments has to do with daily fines. The current code wording suggests a maximum fine per, and I don't remember the word, if it was incident or occurrence. It's not worded exactly how I'd like for recurring daily fines.
Is anybody losing Pat's voice there?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
Couple sentences.
My apologies. There is some language in the code that needs changed to clarify and improve the specificity regarding our ability to write daily fines. The way the code's currently written, there's a maximum fine, and interpreted in the most probable way I expect it would be interpreted, that would be a maximum fine in the case we're talking about for this specific defendant. Even if we wrote 40 tickets, we'd still be bumping up against a maximum fine. So the way in which Denny and Officer Follick and Chief have handled the issuance of citations to date is appropriate based on the language of the code and this specific circumstance. We do have several tickets written.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, you want to move on with the next question?
Yeah, it's dealing with the same issue. Do you want me to go ahead and read all of them and since it's already been addressed, or how do you want to handle that, Dave?
Let's do them one at a time to make sure we answer it.
Okay. The next one is, I'm also wondering about the same thing on Southeast Street. They have a rooster down the street that has woken up the kids much earlier than we were wanting to get up. So the rooster is the issue, it seems, on that one.
Okay, so I think we've answered that, and we are working, with with Pat, our attorney, and through the courts. And so, yes, it is not legal to have a rooster in Hudson. And we're doing everything we can to get this resolved as quick as we can.
Okay.
Go ahead with the question.
The same issue, I'll go ahead and read it. I live right behind these people and have a garage in my backyard that I spend a lot of my time in, and it's horrible. I do everything from working on my car to painting and like having the big door open, and that is not an option with the smell. That rooster wakes me up every morning at 4, and I have to be up at 5:30 a.m. for work, and it's really becoming a problem. So the same kind of issue, basically.
Okay, do we feel we've answered that question also? And Pat, I think we have. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I can tell you that beyond what's already been said, that everybody who I deal with at the village has made exceptionally clear that this is a exceptionally high priority for the village to get resolved. And I know there's great sympathy amongst the village for the residents who are having to suffer the adverse effects of these code violations, and a complete commitment from the village to do what needs to be done to get it resolved as soon as the law allows us to.
Thank you, Pat. Go
All I
ahead.
have then is thank you for working on this. Glad to hear something is being done.
Okay. You got any other questions?
Nope, that's all of them.
Okay. Then the portion of the citizens hearing is now complete. Reports of standing committees, finance, budget, contracts, and employees. And I want to apologize to Lynn for not having the time to do an orientation with you. I will have a lot more free time in the next couple weeks, so I will
No problem.
get something set up here soon.
Yep.
Start you going. Sarah, we will need to cover the garbage contract with you when we come up for our orientation. So, did you have anything else, Lynn?
I don't. Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next up, Street Department, Phil.
Just like to report that Denny and I, and actually Kathy, met with Luke from McLean County Highway Department. We were looking at where to possibly place sidewalks from to get out to Dollar General. And Luke thought we were on the right path as far as staying on the north side of Franklin and trying to put a sidewalk into in front of the Casey's parking lot there, and then incorporate that sidewalk into a walk bridge over the creek and continue further west through Stone Seed and across Front Street to go up to Shiner, and then cross at Shiner over to Township property and continue from Township out to the Dollar General. So Denny and I briefly talked about it, and there's some limitations. Number one limitation is that the county doesn't want any motorized vehicles of any type on the sidewalk. So that kind of takes us away from our idea of possibly running golf carts out there, since golf carts cannot be allowed on Franklin Street. But if we could get them possibly coming another route by maybe coming down Shiner Street, if we can get them up to Walnut by the post office and get them over to Shiner, you can cross Franklin, but then you're talking about having to park your cart at the opening or whatever of where the sidewalk's going to be placed at the township. And we're talking about putting the sidewalks on county property. So we would have to stop there. So otherwise, we would just put a standard width sidewalk, probably 4 foot, which is the handicap sidewalks and accesses to the streets. So that's about as far as we got with them. Any engineering fees the village would have to cover. We would need to work further with the TIF group to see what kind of monies are available. If we could handle any, if they could handle any of the engineering fees we might incur for sidewalk or the bridge building. Probably our largest expense would be to try to get that bridge over the creek. So if anybody's got any ideas on that, we would welcome that. And I know Kathy, you're pretty wrapped up into that TIF, that you might be able to give us some ideas and,
I
if the
had
plan,
already,
pardon me?
I had already talked to Tiff and they said that would be basically fully covered by TIF,
Right. Okay,
but, we want to see if we can get anybody else to contribute, should I say?
right. That would be nice as well.
Yeah.
So, and if, planning commission, Richard, if you guys have any ideas to help us out, we'd sure appreciate input from the planning commission as well.
Has there been any thoughts put towards maybe like an open forum where we put a meeting up and have just an open forum where people can, I know it's kind of probably not real conducive now with the with the current situation, but some kind of an open forum to have some discussion from if any residents would have any kind of discussion or thoughts on that. But we do have a planning commission meeting coming up. I think I will ahead of time send something out to the group and just see if what they have, and if I get some stuff back, I'll forward that to you.
Okay,
well,
that'd be
Phil.
great. Are your planning commission meetings in person or are you zooming them?
We had the last two in person at the firehouse because
Okay,
there's plenty of room in that location. So
okay,
unfortunately, we haven't had any attendees outside of Kathy and just the planning commission team.
okay. Well, I'd welcome input. Um, Another thing the county was talking to us about, and I was trying to incorporate the township and like the grain company, that they purchased the property of Gildersleeves all the way to Franklin Street.
Right.
And they have intentions of trying to do something with that intersection of Shiner and Franklin. But the county wasn't very, they just said that trying to get that corner widened out is probably not going to be an easy chore without moving a bunch of utilities and the way the layout of the ground is there on the west side of Shiner.
Yeah.
So their idea was to possibly work with the grain company and village monies to maybe build up Front Street to be able to hold heavier traffic like semis, grain wagons, etc., by building up the surface to hold the weight of the heavier vehicles. And Dale and I and Denny have talked about possibly trying to, where the tall old elevators of Gildersleeve are right now, the big concrete bends that are no longer, I don't think, being used. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there's an old railroad bed in there that has a good gravel base. And if you could get them across, like where Sun Egg's driveway is, and up on that surface, they could put a road over there. We could get them fairly quickly off of Franklin onto Front Street and over to that driveway to get them up to the grain company. So that's just an idea. And I'd like to incorporate talking to the grain company, the township, and the village, our planning commission, et cetera, to see if we can pull some ideas together. Denny, you got anything to add that I've not covered on the side? Oh, also, I'm sorry, we were looking at going ahead and trying to bring the sidewalk from the police department all the way down to Franklin, where we would put our sidewalk across Front Street. So probably this upcoming year, we'd want to be working on the sidewalk from Casey's west to Shiner, and then the sidewalk from police department down to Franklin. And that would get quite a bit of traffic, foot traffic off of Franklin Street. But possibly not the bridge this year, unless that could be a TIF project, because you're probably talking some pretty big dollars on that bridge cost. But if we could use TIF money, that's a different story. But that would have to be approved, I'm sure, by the board.
Yes.
Anybody got any questions?
Not really. It's pretty high on the planning commission. So we're watching this pretty closely just from the, as we all know, the amount of potential foot traffic walking up through there. So if we can help, we definitely will, but we are concerned about that.
Right. And, the village is as well. I mean,
Right.
it's something, I've been talking to Denny about quite a bit and Dale about. Dale has pictures and videos of people coming from Casey's, walking out on Franklin, going around the creek and then back over to the parking lots. Like people pushing strollers with young children in it.
Yeah.
And Franklin's pretty busy and trying to get across West Street in Franklin. That's a pretty busy intersection right now. So we definitely want to make our citizens safe.
All right, Phil, thanks for getting that started. Kathy, thanks for your involvement with that. And keep plugging away at it and we'll come up with something.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil, you have anything else?
I do want to thank Dale for all his input and time he's spent at the police department. I think a lot of his own personal time working on this project to get this social distancing thing done. He's put in a lot of time and I've been up trying to help him as much as possible and we're getting a lot accomplished. So I think once we get this project done up there, I think you're all going to see that it's a worthwhile cause.
Oh, great, thanks. And thank you, Dale.
Yep.
All right, thanks. Next on the list, ordinance and zoning, Kathy Brooks.
Okay, I really don't have anything, though I do want to comment that I am in contact with Pat McGrath concerning the animals ordinance because Hudson should not have a zoo in someone's backyard. Chief Sparks has been working on that, and the particular resident is not cooperative, should I say. And I apologize, but I find it very upsetting that legally we are being postponed when these people have these animals in their yard it's unreasonable. But anyway.
Kathy, when you say postponed, what do you mean?
Legally, we cannot go in there today and say, hey, you've violated the ordinance. We're taking those critters until the court date. We
Okay.
cannot legally do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas personally, I think we should because it's farm animals in town. It's like.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that a Hudson ordinance limitation or is that a state?
That's constitutional.
Yeah.
Search and seizure. It brings up both issues, and unfortunately, and Kathy's asked me, and again, I compliment everybody on the village's side, from Kathy to Dale to Officer Follick to Denny. You guys have done everything you can do. I'm doing everything I can do, and even though it is to all involved a readily apparent violation, we can't enter onto his property and seize personal property without first following due process of law. So
Yeah, it's just very frustrating, which is why we're reviewing the ordinance to see if there's anything we can do to expedite this situation that should never have arisen. The only, sorry, like I said, that one's just rattles my cage real hard. The other thing is I am reviewing information sent to me from the mayor of Lexington concerning a sewer fee to be attached to the water bill in anticipation of construction of sewers, but I haven't had a chance to review it in depth enough to see if it's how far in advance, considering we haven't even got the proposal yet, that can be instituted. In fact, I will probably be calling Pat one later this week or beginning of next week concerning it after I've reviewed the documents I already have. that's really about all I have. Like I said, I just my cage has been rattled by the petting zoo.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Uh-huh. And I do want to compliment Chief Sparks. He's very calm, and I am extremely impressed because I'm not.
And Kathy, we might want to look at maybe some kind of animal control. I mean, basic dogs and cats we handle, but farm animals are something that even our animal control won't deal with. So that might be something we want to, as a village, want to look into. A contractor or something to do. You know, Lexington has one, and maybe Leroy as well. But you know, we need to look at something like that.
Yeah, it's just this is a situation that should never have arisen. You know, in my mind anyway.
Yeah,
I cannot fathom why somebody would even think of doing that. You know, so you don't prepare for something that's unthinkable.
Kathy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are these animals, are they like in cages? Are they?
No, they're running loose in his backyard. Or my
The-
understanding is they're running loose in his backyard.
What about calling the Humane Society? I mean, they'll go after anybody for messing around with animals.
Well,
I mean, they're in danger because if I'm next to them, they're become ham dinner. You know.
well,
but
I've talked about a barbecue, but I was told that that's inappropriate.
it's not. It's the barbecue is good, and so. I didn't know. I mean, Humane Society, I know when I was out in Colfax, they had some of this stuff. And I remember the guy saying that maybe call the Humane Society because.
Well, I was
don't know.
thinking, you know, inhumane treatment,
Yes.
public, what's it called? Public health hazard,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
something in that order. But technically, we don't have anything in the ordinances to cover that because of the type of issue it is. You know, because like I said, nobody thought that somebody would bring a farm into their backyard.
Right.
You know, you just don't do that.
But if I understand Pat correctly, even if we had no ordinance, we'd still have to go through due process before we could do any removal activities.
Right, because otherwise it falls under, we're stealing personal property from somebody.
Right.
And that's illegal and I would end up in jail. Yeah, in fact, I'd probably go to jail a lot quicker than he would.
Okay, well, we're
And like
gonna
I said,
move
just
on before you go to
rattle
jail.
cage here.
Okay. Next on the list, police, trustee Mark.
Well, again, I want to also reiterate thanking Dale for all the work that he's done. I think the end product's going to be great at the police department. I've talked to him extensively about it and been over there a couple times, so it's looking good, looking very good. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the monthly report, not break it down to very specifically, but just so that you know, they're very busy. The total officer hours were 401 hours during the month. And out of that, the chief's administrative hours are 127. So with the department and having a police department, I just want to remind everyone, there's a lot of administrative details that have to be done, whether your police department is 2 officers, 6 officers, or 100 officers. There's the administrative paperwork that has to be accomplished. The state requires a lot of paperwork. Activity, they had 54 activities or details during the month. There were 3 traffic warnings. There were 4 ordinance violations issued, and importantly, 67 business checks. So they're checking the businesses after hours, make sure that they're secure. We did assist several agencies during the month, 2 assist to Hudson Fire, 3 to the McLean County Sheriff, and 1 to Illinois State Police. And the total amount of fines collected, $237.60. And that's all that I have.
So you're saying that's 126 hours per month of administrative, so it's like 30 hours a week basically of paperwork. Is that what it comes down to?
Joe, a lot of that is from the COVID program that we're working on now. I'm putting a lot of time in on that.
Okay.
It's gonna, yeah, Joe, it will depend on what's going on. And I should have pointed it out. Yes, that took quite a bit of administrative time. But beyond that, there's still quite a bit of administrative time that Dale spends that has to be done as the chief.
Anybody have any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dale. Next is Water Department, Joe.
I took a tour of the water building, and there's some concern about the bunker there. I wonder if anybody knows if it's a safety issue or not. You know, certainly it's falling apart when you look from the inside. Are we sure that it's safe as far as someone walking across the top of it? I mean, there's probably some steel there. I would hope some steel beams. Nobody's probably around that knows how it's constructed. But if you're inside that bunker, everything in there is rusted and it's getting kind of moldy. And I really wonder if that thing is a safety issue that needs to be taken care of. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? You know, you can,
I went in there, I think I was there the morning before you came in, and I was basically appalled. And I'm thinking it's a safety issue also, in that it needs to, I don't know if there's even any rules anymore about having a bunker. Once upon a time, everybody had one. We should excavate it and fill it with dirt, or,
yeah, that's all
something.
you need to do is fill it in, really. And I mean, I just really do wonder. I mean, I'm sure they built it pretty strong. It's supposed to be for bombs or something, I think. But you know, are the bolts rusted that are holding the thing up? I don't know. If nobody's looked in decades, I don't know if we should have somebody look at it or if we should just tear it down. I mean, literally, you'd like it to just fall in on itself, and then you can throw dirt in to cover the rest. But
Yeah, but the air conditioner's sitting on top of it.
yeah, well, that concrete piece would probably stay. There's an air conditioner on top of there's a concrete staircase that goes down into it that you
Yeah.
could probably just leave. But the rest of it, you know, is supported with all that dirt on top. And I don't know if we should have an engineering firm, you know, make sure it's safe, or if we should just have someone come demolish it or what. But it's something we've let decay, or whatever the right word is. And that's probably not something we should just do and ignore. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on, you know, if we should investigate something with that or not. And certainly we need to make sure it's walled off so that there's not a mold issue with the employees in that building, right? If you know, if we think it's secure and want to just leave it, we could at least like brick it in or something so we don't have mold. Any thoughts of anyone that knows anything about it?
My thoughts are we need to take it apart and fill it in. I'm not sure about the air conditioning you were talking about. I don't know where that is, but
Yeah, you can see it. It's I think you could probably leave that. I don't know. A demolition company would have to look, but you could probably leave that there because it's the concrete stairway going down into it, and the air conditioning unit's on top. But
Yeah. There's a concrete cap outside that the air conditioner sits on, but that cap sits above the stairs. It's that hill beside the water house.
Yeah, I would just say the air conditioner probably just has to be disconnected. It's pretty simple. Move it out of the way, do the demolition, and then put the air conditioner back on a concrete pad on the level ground. That air conditioner not a big issue. It has its own shut off right there with it. So
Okay, I agree with Joe that we need to discuss that and do something about it.
well, the steps are. Joe went down with me, and I led down the steps, and I fell through the bottom step.
Perfect.
So we're kind of concerned if we were to get out of the hole again, but we did. But it's not good, and it's not usable. It's not sealed up very well. So I'm with you. I think it needs to come out. The foundation work, the block work needs to go back where that door was, block that back up, and just do away with it.
Okay, so can we get some bids on what it's gonna take to put a block wall up there where the door is? So we can fill it in and put a block wall in, seal it off?
Yeah, so you want you want a mason's bid and you want an excavator bid, or do you want us to look at doing it ourselves as far as filling it in?
You probably get into hazmat if you let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
You guys feel comfortable doing it?
I think Denny's more than capable of running the hoe and doing it. Dale has a good point. If there's a mold issue down there, I just know this from asbestos work in houses, that if you're the owner and remove it yourself, you're fine. The minute you hire a contractor to come in and do it, then you have to follow a whole nother set of rules. So let me and Denny get together and figure out what the best course of action is on this one. And
Jeff, could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
When I did a wing wall on one of the homes I built, we filled it with the big, what they call clinkers, the big chunks that don't break up.
Yeah.
Open that up, fill it with clinkers and grate it off.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, by the time you get the mound of dirt off there, Dale, and pulled away and knock in the block wall, the dirt you probably pulled away is going to be almost sufficient in order to fill up the hole.
Yeah. Okay.
Joe, I have a question. Did you look at the salt tanks while you were at the water house?
I did. I mean, I think that white stuff at the bottom is just salt buildup. I don't think that's dangerous. I don't know what to say about that big bin full of salt sitting there. I mean, would have been nice if that wouldn't have been walled in. But I don't know if it's any kind of a safety issue that we have to take that wall down and remove it at this point, or what we do. I guess we just leave that in there for the next century, unless you think there's some problem with it.
I was just curious because it appeared to me that the salt was leaching into the block.
Yeah. So for everybody else's benefit, I guess we used to have what's it called, a salt thing in there for the water, right? And there's a great water softener. Yeah, there's a great big bin in there that used to be on wheels that are now completely rusted and about to just fall apart. There's actually two bins in there, and one of them still full of salt, and they just walled it in behind the wall. And it looks like there's probably some moisture getting in there somehow, and then the salt's leaching out of the bin onto the floor and into the wall. And I don't know. I mean, one of these days those bins are certainly going to fall apart because they're getting rusted. But I don't think salt's dangerous, so I don't know if we pay to have that taken out or what. I guess it probably wouldn't cost that much to have that salt at least taken out of the bin. But I don't know if anybody has opinions on that. It's got to be hundreds of pounds of salt. It was just walled.
It was huge.
Yeah, it's large.
Let me and Denny, maybe this winter, if the snow cooperates, we'll get in there and investigate that a little bit more. And if we have to haul it out bucket by bucket and then take a cut-off saw and cut that tank in half, that's the only way it's coming out is in pieces.
Yeah.
And see if we can't get that out of there, and then maybe pressure wash all those walls in there and get something started back. And I don't know. It's kind of a forgotten land, but I think that we can probably handle that part of the issue.
I don't think it's a dangerous for any reason. Do you think it's any?
I don't know. So what that room was the additives to the well water. So there would be salt, there would be chlorine, there would be other additives that would. So I don't know what's actually left in that room. I could ask Frank and find out exactly what was what.
Okay.
And that was my initial concern. What was really in there? But I'm kind of with you that the white stuff growing on the walls is actually salt. And I think I agree with Kathy too, that if you let it go too much longer, it's gonna start getting into those block walls and eating just like it does your driveway when you put salt on your driveway. So I think it needs to be cleared up.
Jeff, is that above grade?
It is.
Above the grade of the ground. What
It
about
is.
putting a door off the north side or a window off the north side, excavate it out that way?
Yeah. Well, it's a port wall for one thing.
Is it?
I think we can handle it. I mean, if
Okay.
we have to bring in Tyler to hump it out, we'll bring him.
Sorry.
We'll just bring the dump truck to the back door and just start throwing it in there, and then we'll throw it on the streets later.
For the trustees that haven't seen either of the rooms, I suggest you look at at least the salt room, the room they're talking about. I wouldn't bother with the cave because that's going to be a thing of the past. We'll get rid of it. But it'd be good. There's so you know what's back there where Denny and Jeff sit behind that door. It's been there a long time.
It's like the Twilight Zone.
Okay, thank you, Joe. You got anything else?
No, that was it. Well, one more thing, something I forgot to do. Our friend did not pay his last bill. Carol let me know, but I forgot to contact him. I will do that. I'd really like to just get him to pay his last $500 and be done with this. He missed one earlier and then paid one, and now he's missed another one. You know, with all the COVID concerns, I'm assuming we're trying to be somewhat lenient. I'm going to just pester him to get the last $500 payment in and be done with this, hopefully. But I kind of forgot about it and didn't do that in the last couple weeks. I will get that done.
Okay, I'm glad that'll be caught up. Okay, next we got public property trustee Jim Campbell.
Hey, Dave, I don't have anything, but I do have a question. Would there ever be a chance, I guess maybe this is for Phil, would there ever be a chance to put like a pathway to the Dollar General from like the library area where kids after school could walk that way? Or if they're coming from the Ball Diamonds to walk that way, or do we not have access to that land that would be in between?
Denny and I were discussing that the other day. You're involving the township property, and they have several buildings back there and equipment.
Sure.
So it's quite a liability, Jim, to think about that, but not saying that the township wouldn't give us permission to do something, but
right. No, I get you.
We need to go to discussion with them first to see if it's even feasible.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Jim, there's no easement or right of way from the park to there, and then also there need to be another bridge to cross the creek.
Okay.
As well. So I mean, I think it would be a great scenic route.
Sure,
but there's not a right of way like there is along the street or an easement there for something like that. So be a cool path, but
yeah, it would
that's
be,
an
but
obstacle.
no. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Good question, Jim. Next we have liquor commissioner, myself. There's not been any renewals on licenses, so there hasn't been much activity there. So I have nothing to go there. We have nothing on the agenda tonight for closed session. So I don't see, does anybody have a need to discuss anything in closed session?
No.
Okay, we couldn't really do it anyway. We'd have to set it up for next month. So I do want to remind the trustees, if you hear of citizens that need financial help with COVID, due to COVID problems, there are a lot of resources available at the county. I believe the 211 is the phone number they might be able to call to get connected to resources. So if you hear people that are having financial issues, hopefully we can get them pointed to some help. So don't be afraid to have them call me or ask them to try 211, that type of thing. All right. Did anybody have any additional business for tonight or any questions?
Really.
If not, I want to thank all of the folks out there that are viewing us tonight for attending, and hope you found this informative and hope we were able to answer your questions. Pat, thanks for being here again tonight. You were a big help and gave some really good explanations that help explain where we're at with the process of trying to resolve the problems we're faced with. So if no one else has any additional business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Joe,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Allison, roll call.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes.
All right, our meeting is adjourned. I want to thank everybody and we'll be in touch with everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.